take us back to the beginning. How did you discover your passion for acting and storytelling?
Uh, I first discovered acting when my dad got a job, we were forced to relocate to a new high school going into grade 12. And for whatever reason, probably because I had a fresh slate, I didn't have a ton of friends at the time, except for a few hockey buddies, so I was still playing hockey. My friend Christina Miller asked me to be a part of this year's drama festival, which is kind of like a student-run drama competition amongst Ontario high schools. And so I auditioned for that, made a fool of myself at first, but she didn't really I guess I did line up for the role, like visually, and we were friends. So she kind of threw me a bone, and even though I probably didn't deserve it on talent. And the first time we did a live performance of this play, Never Swim Alone, I just knew I was hooked. Like, hockey is one of those things I grew up like playing as a typical Canadian, but I like hockey as a sport, but I can't say that I loved it. I feel like it's just like every young kid kind of goes into hockey, and I was just playing it, and I was decent enough to play a junior hockey, but acting was the first thing that I was like, oh, I love this, and I kind of discovered it on my own. And I wanted to be a stage actor, and then through a series of events, I ended up more leaning towards television and film when I went out to UBC. And yeah, but it was high school theater. It was that grade 12 year is when I really got hooked on, like, okay, I want to do this. And before that, it was not really even wasn't even my peripheral vision. Like it came out of nowhere. Yeah.
When you look at your career as a whole, who or what's had the biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
For the first half, I had a guidance counselor named Len Whalen, who whenever I had empty space to fill, I'd go say what's up. And when he found out got into acting, he used to be a professional stage actor. And so he helped me a lot. Like, he helped me audition for theater school. He helped me audition for all the plays that I did in high school. And he was always a source for me. And we had like many times where I'd come over and just hang out. And he really, really helped me get into the acting world at the start, and always followed up, still talk to him to this day. So he was a huge influence on me. And I think, Mel Tuck in Vancouver was a huge influence on me. He was he's kind of a Vancouver acting legend there. I mean, he also taught Jared Kiso, who was like the creator of Letterkenny. And, watching Jared Kiso, kind of take his career in his own hands was a pretty big influence on me as well. So, but there's so many people. I mean, I think a lot of actors can attest that you need a lot of people in your corner to support you. And there's so many people that helped me along the way. And I wouldn't be, where I'm at in my career without any of those people. So,
Yeah. Like you were saying, you got your start on the stage. What's that transition been like, going from that medium to now the screen?
It was a bit of a clunky transition, but because theater is so big and you have to use your whole body, and you're pronouncing to the back of the audience, whereas acting on film is a lot in the eyes, and it's a lot more condensed to fit on the screen. So that took me longer than I'm willing to admit, that transition. But Letterkenny, weirdly, Dylan and I, we do use our bodies a lot, and we're kind of animated in the show. So I find for Letterkenny, it's kind of a mix of styles. But yeah, that's the biggest thing that it took me quite a while to figure out, was it's mostly in the eyes with film, TV. Yeah.
Speaking of Letterkenny, season 10 just dropped, and this series has been incredibly well received. What do you think is resonating most with audiences?
I think a few things. First of all, the wordplay and the writing is really, really good. It's very clever. It kind of takes the English language and has its way with it. That's credit to Jared and Jacob. They're really, really smart guys and great writers. So every season they bring something that's really fun to take on. I think because Letterkenny, there's a lot of universal archetypes and the type of characters that are in the show. You know, the farmers who have like a deep sense of morality and kind of stubborn and hard-nosed and protective of the town. I think a lot of people can relate to that. The hockey players could be lacrosse bros or football guys, and you know, they're kind of dumb, arrogant airheads, and I think everybody knows one of those guys. And you know, the Skids are these kind of eccentric, you know, drug-fueled maniacs with an encyclopedia of pop culture on their own. So I think there's the list goes on all these characters that I think, you know, everyone knows, everyone who's a fan of Letterkenny, I think they watch it and there's at least one character they're like, oh, I know someone like that. And I think that's been a huge success for us. And it kind of lets you in through the window of rural Canadian culture. It's kind of exotic for some people, you know. It's I don't think it was as well known. I mean, Trailer Park Boys kind of paved the way for us, but I don't think it was really well known amongst American audiences just yet. And so I think we're able to tap into that as well.
Yeah, with 10 seasons under your belt, has anything surprised you about the experience?
I mean, I guess maybe it's my mindset. I don't think anything's necessarily surprised me, because I knew it just, I think everyone once the show was being made and once we did that first season, I just knew we had something that was really good and really special, and everyone really, really loved each other. And it was very funny. So I wasn't surprised it was going to do well, but I mean, here we are still making it. So I guess you just never know with TV shows how long they're going to last. And, you know, again, credit to Jared and Jacob, like they've maintained the quality of writing because it all starts there. And, you know, we've been fortunate enough to keep making really good TV 10 seasons in, which, you know, it's no surprise. It's usually after a while, TV shows start to slip. So I guess it's not necessarily a surprise, but, you know, just fortunate that we've been able to maintain like a really fun show that people still enjoy.
Do you have a favorite Jonesy moment from either this season or any of the 9 previous ones?
That's tough. In the past, I did find it really fun to play that season where Dylan or Jonesy and Riley and Jonesy, had a bit of a breakup, and I was having to choose between the Skids and Glenn, and I was like a lost dog, and they were doing all these things to try to get me on their side. That was a really fun scene to play. Spelling Bee is one of my favorites, just having the whole ensemble there, and that was just a really funny episode. And I think this episode, you know, the flexing of butt cheeks was pretty funny. It's pretty funny as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, this has been the longest that you've lived with a character. What have you learned from this experience that you're going to bring over to the next project?
Great question. I think you just have to, after a while, especially with Riley and Jonesy, there's a certain framework with which they live in the Letterkenny world. You just can't, you always got to find something that's interesting in them and bring something new to the character each season, like an onion. You kind of just peel it back. I think at the start, Riley and Jonesy are, you know, they were very, very arrogant and filled with testosterone. And I think the more you've gotten to know them, you know, they do have a soft side. They can be cultured at times. And they do have a soft side and a heart to them. And I think revealing a character like an onion is something that I've been able to learn with Letterkenny, even though the framework with which they exist in is still pretty tight. I mean, they still they're chasing opportunities to meet girls, still want to go to the gym, still want to play hockey, and still want to be on top of the world. So with all that in mind, still finding ways to show that they have, you know, they're not two-dimensional, that they have other sides to them, and not getting complacent and trying to view each season with fresh eyes, you know?
Yeah, great answer. And you've already filmed season 11. Is there anything you can tease about what's ahead?
There's just more. I think I'll leave it at this, that the break we had due to COVID really was great for the writing team. They had a lot more time to think through season 10 and 11. And like this season that just came out, there's more fist fights, really funny jokes, more ridiculous characters.
Speaking of writing, you've done a lot of that during the pandemic. How was your experience as an actor translated over to writing?
Um, I love acting. Obviously, I really like writing too. I think the cool thing about writing is, and especially with Letterkenny, because I've seen, I have access to the writers and I've seen the progression of the show. Writing, you're not just limited to you. You're creating the whole story, and I think it's only improved my knowledge of how I, as an actor, fit into a story. Because at the end of the day, each character is in servitude to the story. And so I think writing with Dan Hirosh, who's a writer on Letterkenny, is now a writing partner of mine, and Adam Feingold. I think writing with them, they're a lot more experienced writers than me, has taught me a lot. And we've been writing some cool movies that I think we're pretty optimistic. At least one of them will ideally get made this year. So that just seeing how the whole picture of a story comes into the play has been really, really fun. And you're just not limited to you, you're kind of you're not, obviously, you're not as limited as you are as an actor. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And then we like to end all of our interviews with a pop culture lightning round. Do you have a guilty pleasure TV show?
Love Island UK. It's
that's so good.
It's so good.
What about a guilty pleasure movie?
A guilty pleasure movie. I must say I really like, back in the day, Matthew McConaughey's rom-coms. Like Fool's Gold being one of them. I used to watch Fool's Gold way too much, even though it's so dumb.
What about a favorite book?
Favorite book? I think one of my favorite books, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Even though it's a series of poems, that's probably one of my favorite books. Also, To Kill a Mockingbird is one of my favorites as well. Yeah.
What about a favorite play or musical?
My favorite play probably has to be True West by Sam Shepard.
What about a band or artist that fans would be surprised to learn is on your playlist?
I'm a big Metallica fan. I don't know if people be surprised by that
though. What about a dream role?
I'd love to play like a Sherlock Holmes like detective, like an inquisitive detective. Absolutely love to play a role like that.
And then final question for you. Who would play you in the story of your life?
I don't know. Michael Cera. I don't know. That's a tough one.